The sun dipped below the horizon as the old, rusted sedan rumbled down the long stretch of the lonesome highway. The driver, a woman with a determined gaze and curly auburn hair, clutched the steering wheel tightly. Her companion, a man with a history of eerie experiences and piercing blue eyes, sat in the passenger seat, his fingers drumming anxiously on the dashboard. As night fell, a figure emerged from the darkness, a hitchhiker with a white shirt and a puzzling grin. The woman hesitated, then gestured for the figure to approach. The man's eyes widened with fear, but the hitchhiker vanished just as quickly as he appeared, leaving behind only the echo of his strange laughter. The sedan continued, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, a large shadow loomed alongside them, a truck with no visible driver. The woman floored the accelerator, the sedan's engine roaring, but the truck kept pace, its presence as chilling as the wind that whipped around them. They pulled over at the next rest stop, an abandoned place with broken benches and overgrown foliage. The woman needed a break, but as she stepped out, the man urged her to get back in, his voice trembling with fear. A chilling wind swept through the area, and the woman couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. As the night wore on, the sedan's engine sputtered, dying on the side of the highway. The woman and man stepped out, the darkness enveloping them. They heard a rustling in the bushes, and the woman turned, her eyes meeting a pair of glowing orbs. The man grabbed her arm and they ran back to the sedan, slamming the door behind them. The sedan's engine roared to life, and they drove away, leaving the horror behind. But as they looked back, they saw nothing. The highway was empty, the night silent, save for the sound of their own breathing. They didn't know what they had encountered, but one thing was certain. The lonesome highway was home to unseen menaces, and they would forever be etched in their memories. On a desolate stretch of highway, under the eerie glow of the moon, a young couple, Alex and Jamie, in their late 20s, drove in silence, the only sound the rhythmic swish of the wipers against the windshield. The night air was thick with the scent of rain, and the sky loomed heavily, threatening more downpour. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, a woman in a tattered white dress, standing motionless in the middle of the road, her pale skin almost glowing in the darkness. Alex, with a mix of curiosity and concern, slowed down, his eyes fixed on the enigmatic figure. The woman raised her hand, a silent gesture for a ride. Alex hesitated, glancing at Jamie, whose face was etched with a mix of fear and intrigue. Without a word, Alex pulled over, the gravel crunching under the tires. The woman approached, her eyes deep pools of sorrow, and she implored them to drive faster, her voice a haunting whisper that seemed to carry the weight of the night itself. As they sped down the highway, the woman's story unfolded, a tale of woe and despair that seemed to echo through the ages. But as they neared the city limits, her figure began to fade, dissolving into the night like a wisp of smoke. Alex and Jamie, now alone in the car, exchanged bewildered glances, wondering if they had just witnessed a ghost or a figment of their imagination. Years later, Alex and Jamie, now married, found themselves on Bleecker Road, a stretch of highway they had avoided since that fateful night. The air was thick with an unsettling presence, and the trees seemed to lean in as if trying to block their path. As they drove, a chilling sensation washed over them, and they could feel eyes upon them, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the rearview mirror revealed a figure, a small girl with curly brown hair, wearing a yellow sundress and red shoes, sitting in the back seat. Neither Alex nor Jamie had seen her come in, and the door, was firmly closed. The girl's smile was eerie, and her eyes held a secret that only the dead could know. As they drove on, the girl's laughter echoed through the car, a sound that seemed to come from a place beyond the grave. The car stalled in the middle of the road, the engine dying with a final sputter. The girl stood up, her laughter fading into silence, and she stepped out into the night. She turned to face them, her eyes filled with a profound sadness, and she raised her hand in a farewell that seemed to cut through the very fabric of the night. As the figure receded into the darkness, the car's interior grew cold and the couple was left alone, the weight of the road trip's terror finally settling in. The car stalled in the middle of the road, the engine dying with a final sputter. The girl stood up, her laughter fading into silence, and she stepped out into the night. She turned to face them, her eyes filled with a profound sadness, and she raised her hand in a farewell that seemed to cut through the very fabric of the night. As the figure receded into the darkness, the car's interior grew cold, and the couple was left alone, the weight of the road trip's terror finally settling in. Sleep tight,